Come to order, please. Roll call, Mr. Kirk.
Dominic.
President.
Johnson. Pearson. Lynn. Jenkins. Baker.
Escalade. Here.
Thibodeau. Cox.
Here.
Smith. Jefferson.
Correction.
I know, I just saw that.
Okay.
Whatever how that happened.
If you would,
That's what you asked for? Yeah.
Mr. Cox, would you lead us in invocation, please? Ms. Bowman, the pledge.
Please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we come today to do the Lord's work, see over our people of the Caddo Parish in Shreveport, Louisiana. Honor our folks across this nation, overseas. Watch out for them as they do the work of the people. As we go into this meeting, have an open mind. God, we pray. Amen.
Let's face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions? Okay, there are none. If anyone would like to address this body relative to any item that is not on the agenda today for public hearing, you may fill out a card that's located in the foyer, submit it to the commission clerk or to me. You will have 3 minutes to address your concerns. Next order of business, please, Mr. Clerk.
Special resolutions. Special resolution of support for State Representative Patrick Williams, Walking the Walk for child obesity and autism.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lynch, seconded by Commissioner Bowman. They end the discussion. Okay, if not, vote please. All right, that passes. At this time, I have 4 visitors that are present on the cards. The first would be Mr. Jimmy Cuvion. Mr. Cuvion, if you come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes and you may proceed.
Jimmy Cuvion, 9950 Mansfield Road. I'm here to talk to you briefly about pipeline right-of-ways. We have a pipeline right-of-way that's under trying to get the land purchased for it. It's going through Keithville. It's going about 100 feet from a friend's house. It's a 36-inch diameter pipeline. It's going to work at 1100 psi, and that is a very serious issue. 300 feet is the minimum to get financing on a house, as I understand it, from a pipeline. So I think that while we're here today to discuss noise, we should also be thinking seriously about pipelines that are going to affect the rural areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cuvion. Next we have Jody Bunitz. You come forward, please. State your name and address for the record. You may proceed.
I think she may be.
Oh, you're in public. Okay, we'll have public hearing on that. Okay. Anything that's in reference to noise?
You should come up on the
Okay, all right. Okay, next we have, let's see, this noise ordinance also. That's Ms. Lou Zell. So you can come up at that particular time. Jerry Jones, same situation. Okay, at this time we have Mr. Ken Latin. If you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ken Latin, 3491 Fontainebleau Road. I just wanted to come from Sideport and Vice President and just say thank you to all of you for your support. Usually we come, we're asking for support, but we wanted to come this afternoon and say thank you very much. Sideport is well respected around the nation. It really makes us feel good at Sideport to know that our local elected officials see us just as the rest of the country does. And so we want to say we've had a great year It's only the third month of the year, but so far we've seen an increase, and a lot of that's part to your support and what you do with the funding that you give us. So again, from Ann Fumarala, President, and from the staff of Sideport, we want to say thank you all for your support. We will continue to do those things to keep Sideport as a first-class science center where people from all over the country will come and mirror us. And because of you, again, we want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to address the commission on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, at this time, we'll go down, we have Mr. Craig Lee. Come forward, please. State your name and address for the record. You may proceed in 3 minutes.
Craig Lee, 1035 Eustis Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Just basically reiterating you all's connection with the C.C. Antoine celebration. We talked to the body over the past month or so in terms of partnershiping with funding for this year's events. This past weekend we had a good celebration at the fairgrounds as it relates to the annual event. The 2K Health Walk, the Health and Wellness screening. A couple events were postponed due to weather this past week. We did a good job in terms of cleaning up C.C. Antoine's home. I can report that the city has participated in boarding up the house. Before we actually started this campaign, the house was open to a lot of vagrants and drug users, but the city did board up the house. So from that overall standpoint, we got that done. And from the committee, we wanted to basically give you guys this plaque, which reads the 3rd annual C.C. Antoine Black History Celebration, presented to the Parish of Caddo for assistance with our project this year. As we move forward and leverage resources from you guys, the remaining portion of the year, I'm pleased to say Stephanie Lynch's father will be featured in the outdoor concert. We've moved that project to the weekend of C.C. Antoine's birthday, which is September the 10th. And our other project that's coming up before the school year is out in May is going to be the Arts and Culture Benefit Concert. So from that standpoint, just wanted to thank you guys for participating in our funding for this year's event.
Mr. Lee, if you can get that to the clerk. Are there any questions of Mr. Lee? We have Mr. Cox.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Mr. Pearson and I have talked to Mr. Lee on this, and it's a great project, and looking forward to getting with each commissioners and seeing that the rest of the events are helped out, because I think it's going to be good. And I didn't know your dad was in the music business.
Best blues.
That is good looks from me.
Well, I didn't say anything about that.
One of our best blues singers coming out of Shreveport, and that's one of the things that we wanted to actually do is bring a lot of the local talent. Her father, Jimmy Lynch, did not make the national scene per se. He's traveled around, but we have a lot of local talent. And as we elevate the history of our city and our talent, we'll be able to then cultivate the overall essence. And I think this is going to be a good collaboration between the parish and the Caddo Parish and the city of Shreveport as we seek to cultivate cultural tourism in the area. And I will reiterate, because we'll be coming in front of you guys in a few months as it relates to our actual tourism plan. Black tourism nationally is a $70 billion a year industry. Our objective over the next 5 to 10 years is to lock down a 2% market share in the area. The C.C. Antoine project, I was handed some information today by Shelley Regal. This particular project is the centerpiece for the city's master plan in the Allendale area, as we're going to call that C.C. Antoine Square. And they've already allocated $200,000 from SPAR to improve the parks. We'll take care of the house. That's our pitch that we're making to the city of Shreveport. And with you all's participation, we'll be able to make the planning necessary as we go forward over the next couple of months. Thank you.
One more, Mr. Thibodeau.
Do you get any funding from the Multicultural Center or from African American Tourism Bureau?
No, and the unfortunate reality, and you bring up the African American Multicultural Tourism Group, $300,000 had been awarded to them to actually do the reconstruction of the house over the past 9 years, which we found that information out from Senator Lydia Jackson, but nothing had ever been done, which is a critical point as we seek to now leverage those funds underneath our coffers, but no funding from them on either way. The Shreveport Bossier Tourism Bureau funded us, the City of Shreveport. We're working out that arrangement to gain control of the $300,000 so that we can be the developers of the project. But unfortunately, what has happened, a lot of people really do not understand how the tourism industry actually works, because it's really an invisible industry. People see people coming in hotels, but they don't understand the concept of how this $1 trillion-a-year industry works. So they were not participants in what we're doing. So in terms of our overall projects, that's why we're pitching the parish and the city in terms of being the agents of really marketing cultural tourism in the area.
Do they still have that money? Are they still holding that money? Or
The state actually has the money. Lydia had given us Senator Jackson given us an opportunity to say partnership with them or have the money remitted to the city. I pretty much said that the money needs to go to the city, and then we go ahead and put our plan together to gain control of those particular funds. Because first and foremost, when you have an American icon like C.C. Antoine, whose property, if you saw the property, is really disrespectful that it would even be degraded to that particular level. But when you look at that and you have crackheads and other criminals running in and out of that property, that made no sense. And it's not just his house. There are a lot of historical sites, whether they be black, white, or other entities that are from the city of Shreveport, that tells our story. And so this is where we're pretty much going to push the envelope as it relates to cultural diversity and actually telling our story. We found out that there was a facility that used to be connected to Shreveport when it was the capital of the state of Louisiana as a Confederate capital, was out by General Electric, where C.C. Antoine's property at 409 Lucas, where General Electric now sits. There was a property connected to the state capitol that was behind the pine trees. It's supposedly torn down now. That's retarded, because at the end of the day, you can now market that in terms of bringing tourists to the town, but we have to tell our story.
Okay, I had one other question. And I realize I've slept since the last time you've been here, but have we made a contribution to you?
No, and that's...
Okay, I was wondering why we were getting the plaque.
Yeah, you're getting the plaque based on the commitment in terms of me talking to some of the entities here. So it's kind of like one of those foreseen
So if they don't give to you, they give the plaque back.
Yeah, but we'll be waiting for a check. We'll be waiting for the check any day soon.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Appreciate it. I have a little housekeeping issue here. Now, Charles just stated that he thought that the presentation from Apagio should be during the public hearing.
That would probably be an effective way to start the public hearing.
Okay, well, let me give you my concern about that. I would think that they are here to present some information, whereas the folks for and against can decipher some information as to how they would vote. So I would think it would be appropriate to go now, and then, when we call for the public hearing, we say, anyone here speak in favor, anyone speak in opposition. So I would think they would need to go from the top. Right now. Okay, I agree with you. All right. At this time, we'll have Apagio Acoustic Consultant. You come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm Ken Kunifer of Arpeggio Acoustic Consulting, 1947 Aspen Drive Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, 30345. At the request of Charles Grubb, I'm back before you here today. I put together a demonstration to try and help make concrete to you some of the concepts within the proposed noise ordinance, specifically the difference in dB levels. And I've got a bit of a target of also to try and give you a sense of just how loud 50 dBA is versus 55 dBA. So I've set up here a general public address system. I've produced a sound clip. It's a completely synthetic noise. There's no attribution or linkage of this noise to any physical human noise source. I didn't want to be charged with any kind of bias by selecting one as an exemplar. I was able to get access to the council rooms earlier, and I surveyed how well this system reproduces sound at your seat positions. By no means is this going to be a precision demonstration. You'll see in between Mr. Epperson and Ms. Baker a microphone. That microphone is connected to this sound level meter. This is an instrument grade sound level meter. I've calibrated it today. And when nobody's speaking, or rustling or moving around, the levels at that microphone are around 45 dBA. When there's nobody in this room at all, it's around 40 dBA. What I'm going to be doing is playing a sound file. It'll be playing in 5-second bursts. 5 seconds at approximately 50 dBA, followed by 5 seconds at 55 dBA. And it's just going to cycle back and forth between those two. Now, in my survey of the seat positions earlier today, I know I'm going to be able to get the level at the microphone to be 50 and 55 within a dB or two. As you move out around to the horseshoe sides here, the levels will fall off a little bit by a dB or two. So by Mr. Cox, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Bowman, you're probably going to be down around 48 or so during the quieter stage of the noise, and around 53 to 54 during the louder stage of the noise. And I'll be able to monitor the level here to make sure that we're not getting anything wacky as compared to what I saw when I set up the system this morning. All right, let's see if I can get this going. Quieter sounds were 50, the louder was 55, and that was pretty accurate there at the position of the microphone. You can tell from that, I hope you're able to tell from that demonstration, that a 5 dB increment in level is significant. It will be clearly noticeable. I will leave it to your own assessment as to whether you found the 50 versus 55 to be a level that would be acceptable. And the linkages at those two levels would be what you'd be deciding for the residential limits in the table of the ordinance. 55 being what's in the draft before you now, 50 being what we originally recommended.
That's it?
That is it for that.
Okay, Ms. Lynch, anyone else? Questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Bowman, anyone else?
Well, one question I had is, when you started out, you said you were here at the request of Charles Grubb, but I guess I'm just trying to get a background on how we got in that.
I can answer that, Commissioner. I'm the one that made the phone call and email to get him here, but that was in consultation with Commissioner Smith to
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
That's it? Okay. Ms. Bowman.
Yeah, I just have one question, and I mean, just listening to what you just played, and the sounds that I heard over here, was it louder for them over there? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like, you could reposition to right by the microphone and we can run it again.
No, sir, I'll be quite honest with you. I live in the hood and I hear stuff way like that
If you live within 500 feet or so of a heavily traveled road, you have an arterial, a surface feeder, yes, your levels are going to be louder than us. If you are out in a rural area of the parishes, the ambient levels will be much softer than what you just heard.
That's it, Ms. Bowles.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes, good day.
Now, that sound we were listening to was inside here. But from the text of our ordinance and the way we're proposing to do it, that would be the outside level. Correct, Charles?
Well,
We're going to monitor from within the home, we're going to monitor it outside.
you're going to monitor to the property line.
The property line. Okay, so 55, 50 dBA from the property line, much less in the confines of the home, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any idea, based on the average home, how much less? I mean, I understand you got variables, distance and everything else, but I mean, you know.
Standard construction, you can typically expect 20 dB of reduction through a residence wall.
20 dB reduction.
Reduction.
Okay. So,
Yields a level, say, in a bedroom, that would still be found to be causing sleep disturbance. 35 dB, say if you're 55, you take 20 dB down, you're at 35. Significant fraction of the population will have difficulty sleeping in that environment.
what number is that people have trouble sleeping in?
35.
35. What is
It is an acclimation issue, though, too.
Okay, what is the average decibel level in this room right now? When nobody's speaking, did you say?
Around 40, sir.
Around 40, so you said nobody could sleep in his room?
No, that's not what I said, sir.
People would have to adjust to
Significant
sleeping in
fraction
this
of
room.
people would find difficulty. It would not prevent them from sleeping, it would give them a less than restful sleep. And I'm not talking about the entire population of this room, sir.
Okay, I thought that was a pleasant sound. I could sleep through either one of them. You know, I'm one of, probably a lot of people, I've got a thing in my bedroom that makes noise. So I hear the dogs and the kids and everything else, you know. Leave your house, you get a motel room, man, I run the fan all the time because you don't want to hear all that stuff.
As do I.
But that's a pleasant noise now. It's not like if I, at 50 or 55 dBA, I'm scratching my fingers on the chalkboard.
I could generate that for you if you would like.
That's all
sir.
right. That's okay. I'm sure you could. What was the average ambient noise level in the parish? You remember that figure?
We did not do a county-wide average, sir. We did site measurements and prediction, and measurements at 10 sites.
Right.
Predictions across the entire county. We did not calculate a single number average.
Okay, what were those numbers? Do you remember? I'm not trying to grill you. I'm just
Doing a pretty good job of it,
a
sir.
lot of information. I'm just trying to. I don't recall it all.
Well, actually, if someone could bring up my laptop onto the screen, I don't have it plugged in. Okay. Do you want the 24-hour averages?
Sure. I think that's good.
Okay. I'll
I'll tell you what. Why don't you give me daytime and night and early morning? You know, 2 a.m. that kind of thing, because there's a big difference between peak of day and peak of night, right?
2 a.m. Weaver residence, 30 dBA. Daytime, 50 dBA or better, with some incidents going above 60. Highly variable.
Okay, the measurement taken at that residence was taken outside
Yes,
of the
sir.
property line, or how far from the residence, do you remember?
I do not remember, sir. But it was outside.
Say people have trouble sleeping at 30 and 35 dBA?
In the indoor level is that.
Right.
With that level,
Outdoor level,
that would be a location where there
That 20
should not
points?
be during the times
We're at
of...
15 then at 2 in the morning at the Weaver residence, roughly, right?
Excuse me, sir?
we were between 15 and 20 at 2 a.m. at the inside the Weaver home at that time, correct?
It would be, sir, yes.
Okay.
Be no difficulty there.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Thibodeau?
Okay, John touched on part of what I had, and I asked you this a little while ago. That noise didn't bother me, either the 50 nor the 55 bothered me at all. But had that been a high-pitched noise, it would have been a totally different sound. It would have been and so I'm wondering how do we put in an ordinance the difference in pitch? The old screeching of the fingernails and high-pitched voice would be a lot more annoying than that was.
Mike, you raise a great point. And it also goes to, I chose a noise that I did not want to be questioned on its face. It was just meant to be noise to demonstrate level, not demonstrate sound quality. When you try to get too deep into regulating sound quality, it becomes extremely difficult to find suitable metrics to identify them. Now, in the instances of tones, though, tones are things like what you had just described. There are instruments within the ordinance that limit low-frequency tones and what you would consider a discrete tone at higher frequency that stands out above adjacent rush noise, such as this. So that is being regulated in the proposed ordinance. It's the tonal noise component of the ordinance and the low-frequency noise limits of the ordinance.
Is there any way to show that?
Show the character of those sounds?
Sample tone,
Yes.
but the same decibel level?
Humans hear tones differently. Low-frequency tones, okay, I'll try to put them at the same dBA level. Give me a second. Okay. I have 3 tones set up to go here. Oops, just deleted one. No, I didn't. The first one is a 63 hertz tone, which would be let me just loop that. I hadn't done any adjustment on these tones. Give me a minute to set a level, please. And then I'll get them all going at the same level. The level of this tone is about 50 dBA at the microphone, and it's a low frequency tone. Let me play you a higher frequency tone, and I'm going to have to adjust the level on this after I start it. This is 125 hertz. Still not too terrible though, but those ones would be covered in the low frequency limits of the ordinance. These are pure tones, what are considered pure tone. There's just one frequency component present.
What frequency is that?
That one's 250 hertz, sir. The higher the frequency, the sharper the sound, the more abrasive it typically is perceived to be.
That was at 50 dBA as well?
I got it down to about 51 at the end there, sir. There are provisions in the ordinance to control those sorts of tonal components if they are strong relative to any adjacent masking noise. When you have tones present, humans can actually mask them in the ears if there's enough other noise nearby to swamp out the energy of the tone. But once it gets about 15 dB above the background noise, it becomes clearly perceptible and then is judged to be more annoying typically.
Could I ask him to play those at 30 dBA, each of those sounds? Could you do that?
Not in this room, not at this time.
Not in this room, not this time, okay.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see, Ms. Lynch, this will be your second go-round, so we'll go with Mr. Cox.
I'm just going to throw some stuff out here because realistically, we have the oil and gas industry here today, and we have some other people that are interested in this subject. But through this whole process of over, 8 months, 6 months that we've been dealing with this, it's not only the industry that we're talking about. Give you some examples. Boot Hill Speedway, Mudstock in East Texas, outdoor concerts, oil and gas. So this, in my opinion, needs to be clarified. And it's not, there's nothing against oil and gas. We are looking at something that will benefit the people of Caddo Parish and also let industry go on about their business. Do we do that with the sound levels that you're doing or the ones that have been approved or go back? But it's not just industry we're talking about. If somebody is out in one of the rural areas, like Gibson, Louisiana, they have that racetrack out there, they had to make concessions on their sound. Boot Hill Speedway had to make concessions on their sound because it was disturbing. Okay? That's what everybody needs to understand when this vote goes through today. It's not just oil and gas, people. But when you're talking about subdivisions that are right next door to somebody, these levels are different from the outside to the inside, from the property line, but if it still disturbs the residents, we have a problem. So, I just want to make a comment that it's not just oil and gas guys. There's more to it than just them. And we have to take that into consideration because I went to a lot of meetings. I went to meetings in Bossier. Mr. Smith did. A few other commissioners did. That, once you start getting into this, everything makes noise. So that was just a quick comment.
Ms. Lynch?
I have a headache now from all
I'm sorry, Ms. Lynch.
I'm not.
Let me ask you, I know what loud music sounds like. I'm not sure about the rig thing, but I know we spend a lot of money, I think $100,000.
On that order, yes, ma'am.
Something like that. And I guess I'm just trying to get in my mind clear on exactly what did you do for us. Was that just to come up to determine what these levels should be? Was that the scope of work?
No, ma'am. The scope of work included a significant effort to computationally model and predict, based on known noise sources, the levels that could exist throughout the parish. So there's a modeling and predictions component of the work. There was a component where we came out and set up sound level meters for extended periods of time on a total of 10 sites, 5 split between each of the parishes. And then we also did a rather extensive ordinance development exercise in support of that development for the commission, and this was a joint Bossier-Caddo parish effort.
Okay, was that in the inner city as well as the rural?
No, ma'am, this is strictly the unincorporated portions of the parish, of the parishes.
Really?
Is that correct, Charles?
Yes, ma'am, and that's because this ordinance cannot have any effect inside of any municipal
Okay, so did you work with any other of the shales in, say, Barnett or somewhere else?
In the development of the ordinance, we did evaluate what the ordinances that had been used in those other plays. And the Fort Worth ordinance, for example, is a very useful guide.
Wait, what was their decibel level?
I do not recall that off the top of my head, ma'am.
Okay. But have you specifically worked, I guess, with another government entity in developing a noise ordinance besides us?
Not that was specific to oil and gas. We have participated in ordinance development for urban settings. We've advised the County DeKalb in Georgia and the City of Atlanta.
Was that for what type of noise though?
Comprehensive noise ordinance similar to this. This was meant to be a comprehensive noise ordinance.
What did you all set for DeKalb?
There being an urban area with land use planning, with tiered zoning designations, they have a tiered set of limits. In the urban setting, I think their lowest level is around, ma'am, I'd best call up the ordinance director, or I'm going to shoot myself. It's a difference though between an urban ordinance and a rural ordinance. For example, this ordinance...
I'm straight on that. I guess my question is, once we start drilling in the city, whose responsibility is that? Is that going to be the city council that has to take up the... take that up?
Yes, ma'am, and I've been told by various city officials, including a council member today at lunch, that my impression is that they're looking at what this body does, and then they're going to probably, I don't want to say be guided by what you do, but I think that they have in mind preparing an ordinance themselves at some time in the near future.
So I understand that the 50 is not an arbitrary, I guess, number.
Absolutely not, ma'am. The number also is not determined based on other ordinances. It was based on the science of human response to noise in residential settings.
Okay, so it could be 45 or it could be 55, depending on what you determine the response would be.
On what the intended land use is, the nature of the current land use, and what would you find acceptable for how many of your constituents to call you up being annoyed.
And did you all use live people?
We did not, but the studies that underpin those recommendations are based on sociological surveys of people on their noise environments in these settings. Do they find it annoying? What sort of issues are they having in terms of sleep, speech interference, activity interference?
Okay, so were they tested at 55 or at 50 or at 45, or is it?
It's basically an epidemiological study, ma'am. So yes, there is a correlation between the levels that would be measured at a respondent's house or residence, whatever the land use is that they're investigating, versus the response. So when the World Health Organization states that a 55 dBA level, daytime level, will cause serious annoyance and activity interference for residential with outdoor activity, that's based on talking with people and measuring their levels.
Okay.
So there's a direct traceable science there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
In your checkpoints, did you check any of the manufacturing noise generators?
For the actual measurement locations? No, that was not the objective.
Okay, well, I mean, to me, if we got facilities that's in the rural area that's making noise, we're going to have to have a base around those as well. And if they're above that already, then they'll be getting waivers and we'll be amending this draft.
Actually, if I recall correctly, there's a provision in the ordinance that existing noise generators are grandfathered at their existing levels. The ordinance would not apply until they make a significant change to their operation.
Like they do it in addition to the plan.
So they do it in addition. And it wouldn't just be changing capacity, for example. If the capacity was already existed and permitted, that would not be a change of use. So the intent with the grandfathering was such so that existing uses, existing known sources would not, as a consequence of enactment of this ordinance, be suddenly in violation of the ordinance. It, I won't say freezes, because they still have the ability to go up before the ordinance kicks in, but it would not immediately put them in a violation condition.
I see, Ms. Johnson. Okay, I don't see any other. Ms. Cadet.
I'd ask, you played those last three, the 63, 125, and 250 hertz,
Yes, sir.
and they were approximately 50 decibels.
Yes, sir.
And I'd ask you if you could notch it down 20 decibels so we could get a, well, hang on, let me finish, to see what it's like in the home, but I assume we can't do that because the ambient noise level is higher than that in this room. Is that correct?
With a pure tone, let's try it. I am going to reduce my 250 hertz tone by 20 dB. Now let's see if we can hear it. No idea what's going to happen here.
That was the very high-pitched, aggravating noise.
Right. Can you still hear it?
It's like an air conditioner. Yeah. Sound like a, it's quieter than one of those beds you put the quarters in at the motel room, you know.
Is there a question there, sir?
Just a statement.
They'll grade more.
Just happened to watch Vegas Vacation a couple of weeks ago, I'm sorry. Okay, so that significantly takes it down.
Yes, it does.
Okay. I have one more question. That's cool with me. I like it. Thank you. Appreciate you doing that. Now, we have the, I need to ask the attorney this, because I don't remember all the details of this ordinance. Our minimum, we have a property, we have a distance from the structure, the living, dwelling structure. Do we not, in addition to the property line? I mean, if we're drilling, it's 500 feet from the residence, correct? For drilling?
The location of a well, yeah.
Right, yes, right, 500 feet.
Right.
Okay. Do we have any distance, minimum distance, from the dwelling for a compressor station, or a pipeline, or a pump that would make noise?
Like state regulations that mandate how far they have to be away?
Yeah, are there any existing?
I don't know.
Anybody here know that question? I mean,
I think so.
no?
I think it just has to do with the oil well drilling.
Okay, the drilling station, you know the drilling sites where the well's got to be located, so you've got 500-foot minimum. So, if somebody's home was located 200 foot from their property line, and somebody went, by the property line, and set up one of these high-pitched things, so to speak, it would have to be under the 55 dBAs, is that what we're currently sitting at?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, but in the home, it would be less, 20 approximately, according to you, right?
Correct.
Should be about 35 dBAs. I got you. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Let's see. Ms. Grove, you finished?
I just wanted to ask Ken to go over the handout that I gave to y'all too. You know, the copy of it.
This briefly speaks to some of the issues that Ms. Lynch actually was exploring briefly. what is the reaction of a population when you expose them to a noise level? Particularly when you expose them to a change in that level. Recall that under the current proposed ordinance, existing noises are what they are, they're grandfathered. Now say someone comes in and increases noise level in a urban environment, up into the region of 50 to 45, 50 during the day, 45 at night. The left figure of figure 1 shows that in that sort of situation, you can expect anywhere from just a few percent to 15% of your population to be highly annoyed. What is the definition of highly annoyed in this instance? The typical understanding is that they're annoyed enough to sue, to pursue litigation, to pursue civil action. If you are in this non-rural environment, this would be an urban setting, and you go to a 55-50 model, which is now your current levels in the table. You can expect anywhere from 3% to 20% of your population to be highly annoyed. The right-hand plot there is for a rural environment, away from the urban setting. In rural environments, people tend to value their natural quiet to a greater extent. They don't like to be trapped in their homes. The level that we've already proposed, 50 to 45, you can expect within that population to have anywhere from 8 to 30% of your population annoyed. If you go to 55-40, you're going from roughly 15% up to over 40%. And that's a range, because it's a range of where they have gone into different communities, assessed what fraction of that population has been highly annoyed. So some communities as low as 8% are annoyed, and some communities as much as 30% annoyed, with the 50 and 45 in a non-rural environment, in a rural environment. So in the areas away from traffic noises, away from the urban setting, you have a significant increase in the impact on that affected community by increasing those table limits from 50 to 55. A significantly larger fraction of your population could be annoyed to the significant level of pursuing civil action. That's what this is telling us. And this is based on multiple studies, both in Europe and elsewhere.
That's it. Okay. Mrs. Smith.
Well, all of you know by now how tough this is and what a tough job it is to put your finger on sound. We, along with Bossier Parish, paid a lot of money for this sound study. Mr. Grubb searched high and low for people who were competent to do it. From my knowledge and experience, limited experience, these people are competent. Bossier thinks they're competent. I would much rather err on the caution factor of protecting our people better than letting the cat out of the bag, giving more noise to them than we think our experts tell us we should do. We can always raise it, but we can't always lower it. So naturally, as chairperson, I'm in favor of keeping the noise level that we retained at first. I think that's the right thing to do for our people, and that's my stance. Thank you, sir.
Okay. It appears as though all questions have been answered up to this point, so we thank you for that presentation, and sure you'll be with us through the vote. I have, while you're getting your stuff down, I have one more card that I missed, and it's Mr. Mark Semino. Is he here still? Okay. If you would, let the gentleman clear out, then you can come forward, state your name and address for the record. You can come on up here this way, and you may proceed. And his concern is not about any item that's on the agenda today. He's going to be discussing.
Good afternoon, my name is Dr. Chimino. I live at 1090 Waters Edge Circle, Shreveport, Louisiana. I had sent each and every one of you a pretty lengthy letter probably a few months ago regarding the property taxes at my house, for which they had doubled, requiring me to pay over $2,000 a month for a 4-bedroom house, which I'm sure all of you read this and you got to at least get to the point. I don't want to waste a lot of your times, but I've been to the city council meeting twice. And they basically told me that this has nothing to do with them, and they point the finger at you all, and it's your responsibility. I can appreciate, Mr. Smith, you mentioned earlier that you all are here for the protection of the citizens. Well, you all are forcing me to basically have to sell out of my house, move out of my house, for which I built. I moved here to become a doctor and practice. I stayed, went to LSU, I did my residency there, and I moved here. I also built a small add-on house to take care of both of my handicapped parents. And due to the restrictions based on where I live on Long Lake and Lakeside, I had to make sure that their house was 3,000 square feet. Well, it is 3,000 square feet, but it's one big room. So the total of my square footage of my house is over 9,000 square feet, but it's all handicap designed. My parents' house, as I said, is one big room. It's 3,000 square feet to get power wheelchairs around. The floor of my house is also that way, and I have 4 bedrooms upstairs. So I've written to you about this regarding the fact that from 1 year in the year of 2007 to the year of 2008, they doubled, they increased the property value by 100%, taking the value of my property way from $58,000 up to $119,000, and the property value of my house from $481,000 to $867,000.
Mr. Semino, could you step back from the mic slightly? The sound is muffled.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Back up a little more. Mr. Todd, how's that?
That's better.
That's good.
Okay, sorry. So my property taxes from 1 month, from 1 year, from December 31st to January 1st, went from $760 to over $2,000 a month because somebody has decided that they can increase the value of my property from 1 month to the next. I've spoken to Mr. Thibodeau about this before, and even Mr. Grubb. And as I said, I've got no response from anyone. Y'all are here to protect the citizens, and I need your help to protect me. I can't lose my house over this. I've built it. I know exactly how much it costs to build my house. I have the receipts for everything, including the land, for which I paid $75,000 a lot for, not $119,000 and not anything else. And it didn't cost me $867,000 to build my house. I know what it costs you, and I can provide each and every single receipt for what it costs to build my house and the land. I said, where is it that someone can increase the value of my house by over 100% from one day to the next when the property values in this city and anywhere else in the country have gone down by 30%? But yet they're increasing in value here, and the fight that I have, basically everybody says is you can't win. Just suck it up, pay your taxes, and move on. Well, I'm not going to pay $2,000 a month for a 4-bedroom house, and I don't think anyone else in the city or anywhere else in this country is going to pay $2,000 a month in property taxes for a house. Granted, I may live on a different side of the neighborhood, maybe not necessarily in the hood, but I live on Long Lake at Lakeside, and I use the same amount of resources that everyone else does. I don't have any children in the school system, but regardless, I think everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. But $2,000 a month, that's not fair. I make $200,000 a year. I pay $40,000 of it to malpractice, another $20,000 goes to my student loans, another portion of it goes to my taking care of my parents, which is probably another $20,000 a year. So when you add another $20,000 in property taxes along with what I pay in taxes each for the, in the sales tax and use tax and everything else I pay, by the time it's all said and done, I make I don't make that much money. And I went to school for 14 years. So where is the protection for me as a citizen in this city that how can someone just come in and say your house is worth this and there is no recourse because the person that's doing this is not answerable to anyone. City council says he's an autonomous person. Can you all tell me who's responsible for this? Who I can go to say where's a law that says that you can't come in and raise my property taxes more than a certain percentage in 1 year from the next? Where's the protection for everyone else and the assurance that this isn't going to happen to someone else? Granted, I don't have enough money to do that, but it's brought me to, $2,000 a month is ridiculous for property taxes. And I'm sure every single person that I've spoken to has told me the exact same thing. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Ms. Semino, we got a couple.
I understand, but I need some direction from one of you to tell me what and where I can go to take care of this, because I've been battling this for 2 years.
Okay. Mr. Escudé, we have Mr. Thibodeau, Mr. Cox, and Ms. Lynch. Mr. Escudé.
Doc, how do you say your last name? Chimino?
All right. I've read your case thoroughly, and I don't know what to tell you. It's tragic. If the city council is right, the tax assessor is an elected position, and since 2007, the height of a recession, he went up on you 100%. Mine personally went up 50%. A lot of people's went out of whack during the recession, when the property values in California and Florida were plummeting and everywhere else, and we went up instead of staying stagnant. We don't have the authority or power to do anything. What you have basically is an elected public official who previous to that was a lifelong bureaucrat, and they feel their bulletproofness. We can do something about it this fall, and that's get a new tax assessor. I realize it doesn't help you and your cause. This is out of hand in this whole parish, and I'll be willing to work with you on that one, because, we just can't sit here and take this anymore. They can't really explain to you where they came up with that number, can they?
No, sir. I've done extensive, I've taken all the Caddo County parish information and put into a statistical package and did a regression analysis. When you figure in a perfect world, everything should plot on a linear line if it was in a fair world. These things are plotted all over the place. I even showed them what the house they went to for tax sale, sheriff's sale around the corner from Jim Davis's house. He built that house for $3.5 million. My house, I told you how much I built it for. My house is valued at $127,000 less than his. Now tell me how all this is right. When the guy down the street from me, his house is on the lake and is valued at $299,000. I gave them an appraisal, a certified appraisal from a person for $480,000 for my house. That's what they originally had my house valued for in 2007, and they said, we're not going to honor that, it's too low. So, I can only again ask you, where and who do I need to do something about this? You're taxing me out of my house and out of the city.
I honestly don't know how to answer that question. To my knowledge, they don't have an MI appraiser on staff. Nobody can really explain how they come up with the figures that they come up with. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just here to tell you that if there was anything I could do, I'd do it for you. There's a total lack of compassion and common sense in this whole thing, even to take a look at it. And that's where you run into trouble with lifelong bureaucrats. And if I've offended anybody, too bad. Because, they're just... But the thing is, I brought you to build capital on the line. They're not used to having to invest their own money. They're just used to being the beneficiary of the sweat and equity of everyone else. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. I'd write a letter to the governor, the attorney general, everybody else that I could here. I don't know what to tell you. Let me know if they come to throw you out of your home. I'll be happy to sit there and chain myself to the front door with you. This is tragic. I wish I could tell you something. All I can tell you is there's an election this fall. And I hope somebody steps up to the plate and we can get some fair assessments in this parish, because it's not just you. There are not fair assessments in this parish. I know people who live next to the same people that live similar properties, and the properties are valued pretty much or really worth pretty much the same, but because one's lived there 10 years longer than this one who recently bought their property, their figures are out of whack. The thing is supposed to be taxes based on fair appraisal. Right. They're not. And that's just a fact here. So, if you want to tee up a lawsuit, let's get the kids out of LSU. We'll get all right, sit there to research these things, do some comparisons. I'm sure we can come up with the hard evidence that will show that this, in a lot of cases, is arbitrary and capricious. I believe it to be. I believe we can prove it. But short of that, in helping you fight for your cause, there's nothing we can do to back this guy off or get you any relief or get you a fair hearing. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry you're having to be here today. I don't know what to tell you. Mr. Thibodeau?
Back in, the first time you ever contacted me, if you recall, I met with the tax assessor on your behalf, and it was agreed between him and me and a call to you that he said, I'll get it taken care of. And if I don't, I'll give you a call. Well, you didn't call me, and he didn't call me.
I've tried to call you several times. I left messages on this phone number that's wherever that I've gotten from the office downstairs. I've called a couple times and left messages for you. I'm sorry if you didn't get them, but I did.
Or something, but, you know, I return phone calls. If I don't do anything else, I return phone calls.
All right. Well,
But let me say this, and then I think it was in December of last year, the way that I heard about it again, that had not ever been solved, was I saw on TV where you had come and spoken to the city council. That was either November or December, I believe, of last year. At that time, I got with our attorney, Mr. Grubb, as the parish attorney, asking, was there anything we could do? Not just us, but the Louisiana State Tax Commission, you know, maybe going to court about it, because obviously you have been seriously mistreated, and I think probably a lot of the people in your subdivision were seriously mistreated. But you could have come to us to appeal, but then there seems to be some, you know, there seems to be some, we don't know what we can do and what we can't do. At this point, the only thing that, even when I spoke last time to Mr. Grubb, he said even going to the state commission, tax commission, probably would not help because of the time period involved. You know, but I still believe there's got to be somebody, and I don't know who the somebody is. I don't know who it is. There's got to be a judge somewhere that is still got an ounce of justice left in them, and I don't care if the time frame's passed or not. You have been cheated, seriously cheated, and
proving it statistically.
Hey, the information you gave me and you gave the tax assessor was far above and beyond anything that anybody would have ever required, and including you had an appraisal and by a licensed appraiser. So I mean, I'll talk to Mr. Grubb again in public here and say, what would you suggest this man do, or is there anything he can do?
Commissioner Thibodeau, Dr. Chimino came to see y'all at one of your meetings a couple of months ago, and he got here a little late, I believe. And so I went and met with him upstairs for, what, a half an hour or so, Doctor. And we went through all this. I gave the doctor some material off the Tax Commission's website about the procedure for appeals. I did tell him that there's specific time delays for appeals to this body as the Board of Review and then on to the Tax Commission, that those time periods had passed, that the tax roll was certified by then, and that I didn't think there was any legal recourse for him for the back taxes for the previous years. But I also encouraged him to go engage an attorney that he paid to get that verified, that I might be looking at it from the wrong perspective. And I believe I even gave the doctor a couple of names, if I remember correctly, of lawyers that might be of assistance to him. So I did everything I could, and I still think that's the case. I mean, he does have a very serious grievance, but unfortunately, the law's not always just. And when time periods to do things pass, they're passed, and it eliminates the possibility of him doing it.
Who does the Louisiana Tax Commission answer to? Is that appointed by the governor?
It's an appointed body. Commissioner, off the top of my head, I can't tell you who the appointing authority is for him. I can certainly find out.
Well, would you find out, make another call to the Tax Commission, ask them if there is any way under the blue sky that this man can get some kind of justice. If not through them, then what has to happen? Does he have to go to the governor? Does he have to go to civil court? Exactly what has to happen? It's a shame that this wasn't handled 3 years ago when I spoke with the assessor and he told me that it would be handled.
And there's some legislation that's written where the tax assessor is supposed to provide me with some 1080 form, which he never provided me with, nor did he tell me that even existed. Or if there's this appeals process, that I would come before you all to say that you decided what the price of my house was and overrode what he says. That's the power that I was told that each one of you have, is that you can override any value of what the tax assessor says someone's house is worth. So I'm sorry to take up so much time about this, but I'm sorry, but I've been dealing with this for 2 years.
So I'll give you, just for a point of information, you were told that you were misled. We sit as the Parish Board of Property Tax Appeals. If we disagree, all we do is give you the opportunity to take it. We cannot overturn and reassess, but we can kick it back, and it throws the process into district court, where you get your day in court. Fortunately, is that not correct? You can proceed to court. Is that not correct, Charles?
I believe, he can't proceed to court until he goes to the tax commission. He can't go to the tax commission except through this body.
That's right. It comes to us, then you appeal to the tax commission. But we can't adjust or change or amend his decision. We just give you the next step in the process, correct? That's correct. I've been here longer than you have.
I think we're getting the point that, we got some other items on the agenda. So the point is very well taken. So we need to be a little more prudent with our time. We have Mr. Cox. Come on, sir. I'm going to allow these others to have a comment relative to your situation.
That's okay.
I just didn't know
Everything I've heard is
appears though we're being redundant. Ms. Lynch?
The only thing, I talked, after I contacted you, when I got your letter, and I talked with Mr. Hayes since then, and he just told me last week that you all had worked something out, or were in the process of working something out. So what
he worked out was you either pay your taxes, the back taxes for 2 years, let's talk about $50,000, then I'll adjust the price of your house, maybe. Okay, that was his deal. So if you think that's extortion is what it should be. It's like I feel that if you wronged me over the past 2 years and caused me to the price of my house to go up by 100%, then tell me no, you pay the taxes on that and then maybe I'll adjust it. That's the deal. Well, I paid the back taxes on the portion of my father's house and he adjusted it by $75,000. Okay, great. Well, what's he going to do for the rest of my house by increasing the property? He didn't adjust the value of my property. He still has it at $120,000. I mean, come on. Really, you got to get to the bare bones thing here, You screwed me for 2 years, and you're telling me now pay the price, or else I'm gonna, for which they already sold my house to tax sale. And I said, you know what? At the end of the day, it's a house. I don't care anymore. This is extortion. I've fought in the military for this country. I've been to Iraq. I've been shot in the chest. Let me tell you, this is un-American what's been done to me. Okay, I didn't go to Iraq. I didn't go fight for this country to have this done to me. Let alone me trying to take care of my parents.
Mark, we get your point, but we have time limitations and everybody needs to follow. We'll finish up, Mr. Dominique.
I think it's kind of, everything is getting redundant, but it's simply, if he needs to get a lawyer and file a suit, he's coming to us, and we really don't have can do anything like Commissioner Escudé said at this point. I mean, he needs to get a lawyer and seek advice and civil suit if that has to be done.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you for coming. And one thing we want to let everyone know, any citizen has a concern, we will entertain it. And you notice today we went well and above and beyond what our protocol is, but we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, that ends our visitors' cards. Next order, please, Mr. Clerk.
We have communities and committee reports, administration response to information request from commissioners.
Mr. Wilson, anything?
Yes, sir.
Any communicated reports from any commissioners? We have Mr. Dominique, Mr. Lynch, anyone else? Mr. Dominique?
I just put a flyer in front of y'all. Know that everybody got invited to the Ward 2. We'll be having a lunch Tuesday, March 8th, 11:30 at the Petroleum Club to discuss economic development and update everybody on the Ward 2 part. I know some of you guys will be in D.C., but if you're able to come, I just wanted to give y'all an invite again. David, there is lunch, and we'll have to have
Ms. Lynch?
Okay, on last Friday, the CBO-NGO Reserve and Trust Fund Committee met and to discuss several items. One was to discuss defining our Economic Development Fund, Also looking at allocating 100% of our video poker revenues to that fund. Right now, 50% goes into that fund and the other 50% into the general fund. We also discussed building the capacity and providing technical assistance to our NGOs so that they will become self-sustaining. I did get something similar to what we discussed in the committee meeting from Lano, an initiative that they were doing, and so I'm going to be getting with them and getting some additional information. And lastly, discussing our budget review process for 2012 and potentially looking at making that similar to what how the city council does theirs. And so that's my report on that committee meeting. Thank you.
Don't see any others. I don't have anything, Mr. Clerk. Next order, please.
Just a moment, the Commission will sit as proper standards board review immediately following the commission meeting. President's report.
No, nothing.
Okay. Next, we need to adopt the minutes of regular meeting held on February the 16th. So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dominique, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? We vote. Okay, that item passes. Next order, please.
Next, we have public hearing on ordinance number 5072 of 2011, amending chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinance of the Parish of Caddo to add Article 6, sections 32.20 through 32.27 to regulate noise, establish fines and penalties for violations thereof.
Okay, I'm not going to go by the cards that you submitted initially because this item is up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call first the person that are here to speak in favor of this ordinance. Collectively, we'll have 15 minutes. So if there are a number of people here to speak, you may hone your debate down to within that 15-minute time constraint. Then I'll call all the persons here to speak against this ordinance, and we'll use the same process. So at this time, anyone here that would like to speak in favor of ordinance number 5072 of 2011, please come forward, state your name for the record, and you may proceed.
Hi, my name is Jody Brunix, and I'm with the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, 400 Travis Street, Suites 1501, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. Again, thank you for the opportunity to address your body. I've been up here several times over the last few months, and I appreciate you entertaining me. You know, as we talked about before, this has been a very long, lengthy, drawn-out process. We've been talking about decibel levels since last spring and entertaining various drafts of this ordinance since July of 2010. I think if we're keeping count, this is about the seventh draft, I think, of the ordinance. But again, it has been a long process. You know, with this body, we've done two meetings at the Natural Resources Committee in which we had lengthy discussions on a various number of issues. In the last Natural Resources Committee, there were a number of amendments that were adopted, which is the current ordinance that you see before you now that was introduced 2 weeks ago. Since the beginning of this process in July, was particularly when we're talking about the drafts, significant compromises have been made on behalf of our industry and a number of industries to obtain a workable ordinance that balances the protection of people's peaceful enjoyment of their property and their home with the important economic development for all industries. One thing that I will note, we talked a lot about decibel levels today, is that the decibel levels that we're discussing, the 50 and the 55, those are levels that are taken at minimum 10 feet outside the home or at the property line, not in someone's living room, even on someone's front porch, not in their bedroom. Compliance with this ordinance is still going to be very, very expensive, not just for our industry, but for all industries. We're going to have to do a number of decibel level studies prior to any development, noise management plans, and a lot of mitigation equipment. And we understand that and we accept that. Currently, we've continued to work in good faith with the Caddo Commission and the Bossier Parish Police Jury. And we stand ready to support the form of the ordinance as it stands today with the decibel levels that are on the table and the way the ordinance stands. Thank you.
Deputy Mr. President, Jerry Jones, 401 Edwards, 10th floor, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I'm here representing a client, CenterPoint Energy. CenterPoint Energy is, as you know, not only the group that provides gas to your house to run your stoves and heat your house, There's also a company that transports natural gas. A lot of these wells that are around the parish that will take gas out of the ground will ultimately go through pipelines operated by our client. Those pipelines have compressors, and I think it's become very clear over the course of the discussion of this ordinance that that is one of the issues that you're interested in protecting the citizens against, and we understand that because compressors are allowed, we know it. What I want to stress to you today is that the ordinance as it has been introduced to you today, with the table levels that are in it today, is an ordinance that was reached through a series of very well thought out, very thoroughly discussed compromises at the Committee of Natural Resources. Mr. Smith chaired that committee. Every vote that was made in that committee was a unanimous vote. There was not one vote against the compromises that were reached. The reason I want to stress that they were compromises is because, just what Ms. Bendix just said, there's been two huge issues for the industry. Number one has been the table, the rates in the table, the dB rates in the table, the decibel rates in the table, they are very low. For example, as has been shown to you, the difference between 50 and 55, which from where we were sitting were almost indiscernible. But more importantly, the World Health Organization, which Arpeggio cites as one of its leading authorities, the World Health Organizations, when they make their measurements, they are measured at the receptor, not at the property line. Your ordinance measured, we have to comply with the table levels, not at the house, not at the front porch, not at the front yard, but at the property line. That property line may be as much as a mile away from any human being. It may be 200 feet away from any human being. And the World Health Organization, when Arpeggio wants to talk to you about people who become highly annoyed, they become highly annoyed when those dB levels are within feet of them, at the receptor level, not at their property line. One of the huge compromises that I believe that I felt like moved this industry from opposing this ordinance to supporting this ordinance was the compromise that said, okay, we'll keep the measurement at the property line, however, raise the levels on the table by 5 decibels for anything that is not noise sensitive, and that's exactly what is in the ordinance as it sits today. We believe this was a reasonable compromise based upon the industry and based upon what is going on in the nation. One thing that we need to understand that almost all noise ordinances around the country measure at the receptor line, except for those that are in urban environments. Cities, Fort Worth, Atlanta. When you are in an urban environment, it's not unusual to measure at the property line. But when you're in a rural environment, as most of Caddo Parish is, it's highly unusual to measure at the property line. So we believe that what was achieved at the Natural Resources Committee was an incredible act on behalf of that committee to recognize the strictures that this ordinance is going to place on our industry, as well as every other, as Mr. Cox has pointed out, every other industry in this parish. It was a reasonable compromise, and we urge you to keep the ordinance just as it was passed out of the Natural Resources Committee, and you do so with the support of my client, CenterPoint Energy. Thank you.
Anyone else speak? All right.
Mr. President, Commissioners, I'm Lou Zellum. I live at 621 Evergreen Drive, Hurst, Texas. It's a suburb of Fort Worth. I'm with a company called Barron's and Associates. Don Barron's owns the company. It's a privately held company out of California. We have offices in Alita. We have offices here in Shreveport and some of the other shales. Don Barron's and his company has been in the acoustical and noise mitigation business for 30 years. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you for just a minute to talk about your ordinance. I can't say much more than what Jerry told you. He covered it very, very well. As consultants in the acoustical business, acoustical measurement business, we see a lot of ordinances, the Fort Worth ordinance included. And I can tell you, I think you have a very good ordinance as it reads today. We are pleased. I know Don worked with this group over here. I'm pleased, and I speak for him, about the cooperation, with the cooperation and support and guidance that you guys gave, you people gave, in developing this ordinance. The ordinance is a significant improvement, quite frankly, over a lot of the ordinance we see around the country. This is a good ordinance, especially in that area that's under heavy discussion today. The 55 dBA level for the noise-sensitive receiver. Pardon me, I'll get my terms right here. The designated protected receiver levels 55 to 50 are spot on. The receivers for the other receivers at 60 and 60, I think it is 60 and 60, are good. The third thing about raising this to 55 is that it is a reasonable number for those high-impact areas. As Mr. Jones said, the high-impact areas being the residences. We see in Fort Worth a lot of impact areas like that. My home, for instance, in the suburbs, we don't have a big highway close by. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we are about 53.5% DVA on this time of year. I had to measure it the other day because we had some problems in the neighborhood, but we were right at 53.5. The Fort Worth ordinance allows 5 decibels over that in the daytime. If that was the daytime, 3 over at night. But we do ambient studies over there. I think 55 is very fair for this ordinance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know it isn't a question and answer, but I thought since I'm here. But we appreciate what you've done. We think you have a very fair ordinance and would hope you adopt it. Thank you.
Anyone else speak in favor? Okay, that ends the in favor. At this time, is there anyone present to speak in opposition to ordinance number 5072 of 2011? Anyone to speak in opposition? Okay, next one, please.
Voting ordinance for final passage, ordinance number 5070 of 2011, property located on the north side of Roseback Road, 1,050 feet east of Elby Road, Roseback Property LLC.
No, you got, on the hearing. Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor?
This is final passage. We had a public hearing on the 16th of February.
Okay, Mr. Thibodeau. So moved. Moved by Mr. Thibodeau, seconded by Mr. Escudé. Any discussion?
5070?
No, P.
Yes, I'm talking about.
This is ordinance number 5070.
Wait a minute, you say 50 what now? This is on the zoning case.
That's
Yeah, zoning P111.
It's ordinance 5070.
57, okay, all right. Okay, that passes. Next order, please.
Ordinance for final passage, ordinance number 5071 of 2011, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorizing the parish administrator to designate for sale.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lynch, seconded by Commissioner Escudé. In the discussion. Discussion, we have Mr. Dominique.
We've already had a public hearing on these two also, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, we'll vote, please, once it's up. That passes. Next order, please.
Ordinance 5072, amending Chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo to add Article 6, Sections 32.2 to 32.27 to regulate noise, establish fines and penalties for violations thereof.
Moved by Commissioner Escudé, seconded by Commissioner Thibodeau. In the discussion. Okay, on the discussion, we have Mrs. Lynch, Mr. Escudé, and then Mr. Smith. Okay, no, not yet. Here again. One more time. Okay. Ms. Lynch?
I have a question and a comment. Now, Bossier, has Bossier already passed their ordinance?
Yes, ma'am, they passed it about a month ago.
Okay, was it at the 50-45 dBA or the 55-50?
they passed it at the 50-45 level.
I guess I had a question to somebody, maybe Jody? How does that work? And I know it's a different area and all of that, but I guess it's still the same players that are involved that'll be drilling in Bossier as well as Shreveport. How is that going to work if we have a different?
We're under the same, one of the reasons when Bossier Parish passed theirs, they put an effective date of theirs on April 1st, so that would give Caddo Parish the time to enact any changes and enact their final ordinance, and then Bossier Parish would look at adopting some of the changes to get something that was more in line. Whether that happens or not, I mean, of course, each entity is open to do whatever that they wish to do. Of course, we like seeing, mirror images on either side. However, this is a more workable system for us. These numbers are much more workable for us continuing our drilling.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just let me say that, thank you. When I created this committee in 2009, when I was president of the commission, it has done exactly what I expected it to do, to give a very focused deliberation to the issues that were arising out of the Haynesville Shale. Commissioner Smith has done an excellent job chairing that committee the last couple of years, and all of the folks that have gone to meetings and meetings and meetings for over the same period of time dealing with this issue. And I think I'm going to go with the recommendation of the committee today, because, like I said, it has done what it was intended to do, and that is to flesh these issues out, come up with a compromise, come up with a consensus on how we move forward in addressing some of the issues that are rising out of the Haynesville Shale. There was no opposition today to the ordinance, so, I think probably for me as an inner city commissioner, most of my issues are probably going to come when this comes before the city council. But certainly, I'm going to take the recommendation of the committee today. Thank you.
Mr. Escudé? Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to support the ordinance as it's written as well, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to do it beforehand. I'm more confident with it now, because I've heard with my own ears the difference between 55 and 35. It's just not numbers now. I've had some practical experience that I can relate to it. And I don't believe that's going to be that big of an annoyance. Also realizing that the level or from the property line, and the study wasn't done at the receptor or the home, actually, makes me believe that it's even going to be less. If, for example, you've got something out there putting out 55 dBAs and it's on the property line, and then it's and the home is 200 feet beyond that, then I don't know, depending on the frequency of the sound, but as that sound travels at 200 feet, it's going to get diminished, and then once it enters the residence, it's going to go down another approximately 20. I'm very comfortable that this is a good thing. Probably what we're doing here, or it's a good start anyway. Probably what we're doing here is we're not considering that we're going to, by passage of this ordinance, possibly grandfather in some people who are actually exceeding this limits right now. That just kind of dawned on me today. And I'm not picking on a particular industry because, you don't know who it is. So I think this is we worked long and hard on it, as Commissioner Lynch said. It's a lot of detailed information. Got a little bit above my pay grade, but I muddled through it. It's kind of like when you get an algebra tutor. And I'm comfortable that this is a good place to start. If we should find that it's unworkable or we miss something, not that anybody likes to come back and amend things, that can always be done. And always keeping in mind that no matter how well intended any ordinance or law is that's passed, you may be trying to protect someone from one instance, but you're also by doing that, restricting the freedoms and liberties of someone else on the other hand, just by that action. So I'm comfortable that we've been cautious in our deliberations and that it's a good ordinance, and I'm going to support it. Thank you. Mr. Dominique?
Listen all day, this afternoon, to all the stuff we talked about, but trying to keep it somewhat simple if I can, and just wanted to bring up a few things. And we have talked about these, but I've noted them and wanted to bring on again. First of all, there is grandfathering language that is going to grandfather the existing businesses in. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a good thing. The second thing is it only applies to unincorporated area. It doesn't apply to the city of Vivian or city of Shreveport. It's going to be in the rural areas. The third thing, as Commissioner Cox said, and I think the media has focused upon this, that this has to do with oil and gas, and obviously this was brought about by the Haynesville Shale, but it's not going to just affect someone drilling a Haynesville Shale well. It's going to affect all businesses, whether it's a racetrack, and Commissioner Cox, you say Boot Hill. I have 2 racetracks in the northern part of the parish, and they may very well be exceeding the limit as it currently is. There are some exceptions, which I was glad to see there's an exception for agriculture. So if a farmer is farming, they're not going to be affected. There's also exceptions for timber and also pasture land, because it falls under agriculture. It should also, according to Mr. Grubb, shouldn't cause any problems with the oil and gas industry located in those areas. The problem I do have, the main problem I do have, is those current businesses, whether it's an oil well or racetrack, if they do decide to expand, or an oil well tries to develop within one of those restricted areas, noise-sensitive areas, they're going to have to comply with the new ordinances, and it's going to cause problems. I don't know what to do about it, but I do have a problem with that, and I'm hesitant about voting for this, but because of that reason. I don't want to see a cotton gin have to expand, and there are ways they can get a variance, but for someone who had to drill one of the small stripper wells located in unincorporated areas that were adjacent to a noise-sensitive area, and it's not, and I'm sure this ordinance is going to pass, but I think we're going to have to, probably look at this sometime in the future. There may have to be some amendments, and I think we just need to know what we're talking about. And I think we do. I think we've gone over this. We've met in numerous committee meetings, and I'm glad to see the oil and gas industry involved and here today in the compromise that we have reached. And that's pretty much all I got to say.
Mr. Smith?
Everything that I've heard here from my fellow commissioners is correct. We have worked hard and we have worked long. But you know who we haven't heard from? Is our constituencies. They don't know about this. The reason they don't know about it is because it's so difficult for us to know about it. Even though we've studied it and listened to it, it's extremely difficult to come up with putting your finger on this situation. I still am in favor of lowering the decibel level. My vote will not be to move it forward as goes, but I'm one vote, and I feel like I'm voting for the people that I represent, so that's where I stand still.
Okay. Seeing no further calls for debate at this time, we will vote on ordinance number 5072 of 2011. Okay, that passes. Next order, please.
Ordinance for introduction by title, ordinance number 5073 of 2011, amending the budget estimate revenues and expenditures for the Juvenile Justice Fund for Juvenile Court Program titled Facts of Life. Ordinance number 5074 of 2011, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorizing the parish administrator or designee to sell. Next, we have a work session minutes from February the 14th and February the 28th.
Move that both February 14th and February 28th work session minutes be approved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Dominique, seconded by Mr. Smith. Work session of February 14th and the 28th be approved. Vote please. Okay, that passes.
Next, we move to our resolutions. Resolution number 6 of 2011, stating the Caddo Parish Commission's endorsement of Blue Streak Services to participate in the benefits of Louisiana Quality Jobs Program. This was delayed from February 16th.
Chair moves, if I can get a second.
Second.
Okay, I think Mr. Pearson had requested delay, wanted to hear from the individuals. Is there anyone here present today from that organization, or anyone from staff can tell us? Ms. Fraser, you have something relative to that? Okay.
The gentleman from Blue Street was supposed to be here Monday, Commissioner, but he had a medical emergency on Monday and cannot come until your March 14th work session.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cox?
Can I make a suggestion that we postpone this?
Okay.
Or after when y'all get back from NACO?
Moved by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Thibodeau, that we postpone this resolution for our next work session meeting. Any discussion? No, Mr. Dominic?
That must not be
Okay.
Don, is there any time delay that they have to have this approved and in by the state? If we postpone this to March, is it going to be okay? I guess the question.
Commissioner, I think there is a time delay, but I think we're within it. I don't think the...
I need over the time delay.
Yeah, I don't think pushing it to March will hinder that.
All right, well, I will support that motion.
Okay, if we could, we can vote on the second delay. Okay, that passes.
Next, we have resolution number 7, 2011, declaring the Caddo Parish be malapportioned as established by the 2010 decennial census of year 2011.
So moved. Moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by who? Ms. Bowman. On discussion, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this resolution as to why. Okay, seeing no calls for discussion, then vote please. Okay.
Resolution number 8 of 2011, stating the Caddo Parish Commission's delegation of authority to the Shreveport-Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau to secure tourism recovery monies to increase tourism in Caddo Parish.
Moved by Mr. Escudé, seconded by Mr. Lynn. Any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, we will vote as soon as it come up. That passes.
There is no other business, sir. New business. Have confirmation for appointment of Mr. Milton Alexander to the Board of Sewage District Number 5, filling unexpired term of Ms. Marvilla Moore, Washington.
Moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Bowman. Seeing no calls for debate or discussion, you vote please. That passes.
Confirmation for appointment of Mr. Jimmy Parish to the Board of Sewage District Number 5 to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Eddie Smith.
So moved. Moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Dominique. Vote please. Passes. Any further business, this body? Not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Don't we set property standards?
Right. Okay, do we continue this meeting?
You can call it to order and...
Pardon?
Call it to order and then we'll...